Hey, happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome back in. It's to another episode of After the Buzzers. We appreciate everybody joining in. Uh, Comment, subscribe. We got a lot of topics tonight. We're going to get right into it. I got these two guys here. I'm Chris Sawyer, kind of moderating everything with everybody. I've got my Hall of Famer, Marv. Orange. Marv, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. Listen, before we get to the professor over there, I no longer want to be known as the Hall of Famer. What I want to be known
Okay.
as is Money Marv.
Money
Okay,
Mark.
because I think I was the only one on this panel that predicted that national championship game the right way. I think I said 12 to 15 they would win by. So from now on, I'm Money Marv. All my friends calling me that because I made everybody some money on the championship game. So I'm Money Marv, baby.
I got
Well,
your
I'm gonna
money,
give it
Mark.
that. He is Money Marv because you're absolutely right, Marv. If we go back in the archives, you predicted it. So absolutely. And then hey, we got the Professor Lee Jones. Lee, you got a nice little background there too after the buzzers. How you doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Good. Beautiful day. Beautiful day in Memphis, Tennessee. Everything. Life is good, man. Let's jump into it. I'm excited about these topics, Chris. We're gonna have some good conversation today. So let the people know what we're gonna chat about.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's been a lot going on. You know, if you listen to our shows in the past, we've talked about the men's and the women's NCAA tournament. We're going to get into the ratings a little bit. The difference with the ratings. We've talked about the women's. Is it here to stay? But you know, Lee and Marv are going to kind of break that down a little bit. We're going to talk about Zack Edey, is NBA prospect. See what these guys think. He did lose it, but I know Marv and Lee both had some opinions last week on what to do to stop him and what he can do to help Purdue win. But we'll talk about that a little bit. We got some interesting comments tomorrow. If I'm correct, tomorrow's the WNBA draft. We've got some interesting comments on Caitlin Clark, so we're going to break that down, see what these guys think of that, and then in really a first, the NAIA, which you don't know what that is. I mean, it's more of a small college. It's like the NCAA, but it's a small college. They serve 80,000 student athletes, I believe. They banned women or men. Whole transgender thing. We're going to kind of get into a little bit political thing here, but we're going to break that down. Marv, especially, I'm anxious to hear what Marv says, being a former college athlete as well.
Me too, Chris. Me
Calipari,
too.
yeah, I know. I'm gonna get to you, Lee. Yeah, I'll get to you. Hey, a big announcement: Calipari leaving Kentucky to go to Arkansas. Kind of took a lot of people by surprise. I know we've all talked through text and stuff. We have our opinions, so we're going to break that down. We're going to talk about the NIL. We've talked about that a lot. Is it affecting sports? And that could wrap into Calipari leaving. We talked about Saban, things like that. So we'll break that down a little bit. And then we'll do some NBA stuff too. And we'll kind of wrap that into to Zack as we talk about his future too. But let's get into it, guys. Hey, everybody, comment. We'd love to hear it. We're going to get to all your comments. Put your opinions out there. But Lee, I'm going to start with you. The ratings for the women. I mean, we've talked about it. I was mesmerized by the women's game this year. And Caitlin Clark, but it's not just Clark. There's a lot of other superstars out there. But talk about what you thought happened this year, and will that stay? And the rate, there was a big ratings difference, to be honest with you, with the two games.
Yeah, I think the women ended up doing a little over 19 million views for the championship game. The men was right at 14.8 or something, right along in that area approximately. So again, the women, as far as viewership, they outdueled the men. And I kind of thought it would go that way because of the interest that Caitlin Clark has galvanized around the country, and everybody really wanting to see her play and win the championship. I think most of the people that tuned in were really, really rooting for her to win against an undefeated South Carolina and finish the story, per se, Chris. And so yeah, I initially thought that the women's game would outdraw the men's game. And so I'll say this, the flow of the men's game, it started off fast. Then it's tapered off at the end as UConn started to and implement their dominance over the game, but the interest level in the women's game was much more higher than the men. So I wasn't surprised by the ratings. I do think that college basketball, women's college basketball, is here to stay. Now, if you're asking me, Chris, do I think that we're going to see those type of numbers next year and beyond, where they do 20 million people in the championship game? I'm going to table that a little bit. Do I think that the women's game will continue to be watched? Yes, but I don't think, or I'm not very positive that it will outdraw the men's game next year with the influx of talent that's coming in to the men's game next year with these incoming freshmen that are coming in. Caitlin Clark added a big boost, and it can't be overstated what she added to the women's game this year and the viewership and just her whole story. So for me, again, greetings for the women's game. I think it's something that's going to boost up the interest level and continue to boost it up. But I as far as outdrawing the men on a consistent basis, I don't see that happening. But I do commend them for what happened this year.
And Sandra and Norma are both agreeing with Lee. I mean, they got big numbers. I mean, I know we've talked about this in the previous shows, watching them. And do you think it was Clark, or do you think it was the overall play of the game? And they're more than just Clark. But what do you attribute those numbers to?
Well, I think first and foremost, the women's game has become more attractive than the men's game. Let's just be honest. The brand of basketball to me is a much better watch. Lee pointed to it when we talked about the men's national championship game and how slow and methodical the game started out, like two heavyweight boxers trying to figure each other out. And if you juxtapose that with the women's game, Caitlin Clark came out and had 18. She was bombing threes to start the game, right? So the brand was much more exciting. So I don't think it's an anomaly. I think that the women are now more visible. Women basketball players, if you watch it from a social media aspect, they're much better on social media, which has brought in a different type of audience to the women's game. Yes, Caitlin Clark was a big factor in this, and it was also because she was really good, right? It wasn't because she was just some ordinary player. She was really, really good. But you can talk about, you had Paige Beckers, you had the young lady from Texas. We can talk about the USC. You had the big center from USC. I mean, there's a whole Juju, all the girls that we can talk, young ladies we can talk about that really kind of push the women's game to the forefront. And again, I'm a basketball purist. I love to watch the game, and I just think the brand of basketball was better. So 18 million viewers, 24, I think, was at its peak. Have you watched the men's game? It is declined every year. I think the last 5 years, the viewership has dropped because the game is just different. Guys don't stay around as long. So I think it's here to stay. I do think that we're at a kind of a watershed moment here for women's basketball, though, and I know we'll get into this as Caitlin moves into the WNBA and how they handle this from a business perspective. I don't think they're starting off that well right now, but we'll see. The draft is tomorrow night, but there's some things going on right now that I've got to question their business model. But I love it for the women. I love their game, and I do hope that they continue to thrive because I just think the brand that they're putting out there is just a little bit superior to the men right now.
So, Marv, I mean, I just want to ask you a question. So you think that next year, first of all, let me ask you this. You think Juju didn't just raise that viewership up to a level that supported this viewership jump? That's the first question. And then the second one, you're telling me that you think the women's final game will outdraw the men's game next year.
I do. If you're looking at the talent level that's coming into the women's game, you mentioned the men's game, but most people can name one person, and that's Cooper Flagg, right? That's about the only person you can name in the men's game because there's so much dysfunction in terms of NIL transferring in the men's game. The women's game just doesn't see that. They don't see the movement the way that the men do. So you have players that have made a brand and put themselves at a university for longer, and fans have become accustomed to seeing them. And there's some really, really good girls coming into college basketball next year that I think is going to maintain the level and interest. And again, Lee, we talk about this all the time. It's all about branding, and women are just better at branding than men. They're more savvy. When you thought about the championship game, how many commercials did we see that were college men's basketball players? Hardly any. It was all women. You had Juju, you had Flage. I mean, you could go down the list of all the women's college basketball players that we saw promoting the game and just becoming polarizing to people, and it makes you tune in. So I think it's here to stay, and I'm glad for it.
We do know that Zack Edey couldn't get NIL deals because he is from Canada. And so he wasn't allowed to capitalize on his name, image, and likeness. That's probably, among other things, But, Marv, we keep receipts. That's all we say. We say this all the time. We keep receipts, and we'll see how well the women's game factors in after Caitlin, right? After Caitlin, because, I love the women's game. It's a different brand of basketball. It's a totally different brand of basketball, and I enjoy it, but I don't foresee that happening. But we'll keep those receipts, and we'll definitely. We're not going
sound like you putting asterisks game. Sound like you want to say a little something, but you're not saying it. So we're gonna put that little asterisk by it because
No, I always say what I mean. I'm saying that the women's game will not outdraw the men's game next year. I'll make that point very clearly because the star power of Caitlin Clark lifted this up. There is no doubt in my mind that's what drew the women's game to the viewership. And we can talk about Juju, and we can. I can imagine as far as people that really know of Juju, they've heard the name, but knowing of her, it's not that many. But I'm telling you, Caitlin Clark lifted this viewership, and we'll see where it goes from here. I don't want to denigrate or downgrade or let people think that I'm against the women's game. But in my professional opinion, I think Caitlin Clark lifted them up.
Thank you, Vincent. Hey, always a man of reason.
No, it's funny, Marv. I was just going to mention what Vincent just said. Hey, Marv, you're in South Carolina. I got a house in South Carolina. I'm going to say we do have to give props to Dawn and her team. I mean, they played well. I was watching some footage today on the way they covered Clark, and it was almost like they blinded her because she's a good passer. There was, and you're right, Marv. She jumped out quick, but they adjusted and they were able to do that. But I have to ask you this, Marv, and this is a little bit off topic, but one of my best friends went to USC. I noticed they had the yellow in their jerseys. And he said that was a slight to USC in LA. But I don't know if you've heard anything about that. But I thought that was interesting because I texted him, like, why do they have yellow? And that's the first thing he said to me. Any background info on that? Or is that just something they wore?
Yeah, I got a couple of friends at USC, one that coaches on the men's side. And it definitely was because if you go out anywhere outside of the state of South Carolina, USC is always Southern Cal, right? And I think Southern Cal made a point to let South Carolina know that they're the real USC. So it was, Dawn does those things. That's how she is, right? It was a little bit of a slight to USC, and look, she can back it up. So, and she got the players to back it up. So I like it. But yeah, you're definitely Robert, right, Chris.
Yeah, Robert and Elliot, thanks for the comments. We appreciate you guys joining in with us. Hey, let's we're going to get back to a little bit about some stuff Dawn said and other things later, but. Lee, I'm going to go with you. You had mentioned Zack from Purdue. I know last show, as we were kind of previewing everything, you were talking. You had some very good insight on how they could stop him or how he could go. But what do you see as his NBA future? I mean, is he an NBA player? Where do you think he goes from here?
No, look, certainly an NBA player. I mean, certainly an NBA player. The word transformative player, generational talent comes out in these things. I wouldn't give him that yet. I wouldn't give him that. But certainly, if drafted in the right situation, he'll be a significant contributor. I think of a team like my hometown Memphis Grizzlies who need that size and put him on the floor with a Jaren Jackson, move him to his natural 4 position, right? Have Ja Morant penetrating and throwing the lob up to Edey. That would be a perfect fit. So do I think Zack Edey has a great NBA future ahead of him? Absolutely, I do. I think situations matter. Situations matter, and usage matters. And so you have to get him at a place that he's not going to be the savior per se. He's not going to be the first or second option per se, but get him on the court, let him mesh in with a team. And Edey's an excellent low post player. He's an excellent low post player. And then if you limit his minutes, he basically played the whole game in the national championship game. So he got tired as the game went on. He was going up and down, up and down. Use him, manage him right, use him for the proper minutes during an NBA game. And certainly, Zack Edey, he's an old school player when we talk about post players down on the block, scoring the basketball. So I think Zack Edey has a great future in front of him, depending on who and where he goes. And let's hope that the ping pong balls fall the right way for the Memphis Grizzlies. And I think the Grizzlies will be on their way. So I definitely look forward to Edey playing in the NBA, and I think he's going to do well.
All right, money man. You nail everything every week. But, I mean, where do you see Zack? I mean, you're a former college player. Where do you see Zack going? Or not going, but, you know, how his future is in the NBA?
Shout out to Robert A.G. Mobile, Alabama's finest.
Yep.
So, you know, I always got to shout out to Alabama. But I do agree with Lee in terms of the situational aspect. With the way the game has changed today, I think at best he's situational. You know, I'm a numbers guy. So, and I know you are too, Chris. There's 11 players in the league this year that averages 3 post-ups a game, like pure post-ups, right? Three guys, right, that had 11 touches in the post this year. Over the last 10 years, it was 60 different players that averaged 3 or more touches in the post a game. So that tells you where the game has gone. There's no more pure post up in this modern day NBA. So he's got to go somewhere where it's really going to be situational. And to be quite honest with you, he doesn't really bother me or scare me as much on the defensive end as he does offensively. What do you do with him offensively at this point with the way the game has changed? Defensively, I think he moves well enough. Hell, nobody plays defense in the NBA anyway, so it doesn't really matter at this point, you know. So people made a big deal about, you know, what happened in the Connecticut game when they put him in that pick and roll action and he got kind of hung out to dry. I mean, they score 4 points off of it. Let's be real. The kid moves really, really well to be 7'4", but I'm more concerned about what you do with him from a situational aspect because the game has changed so much that there's just not pure post touches anymore. Imagine him, you know, defensively against an Embiid or a Jokic, and you know they're playing that pick and pop and they're putting him on the elbow and they're just, you know, they're just kind of toying with him. But then maybe he gets on the block and you're able to run some sets to get him some looks. I do like Lee's idea, him going to Memphis with Jaren Jackson. I think that it's a good change of pace. And I think he'll have a long NBA career because the right franchise will figure out how to use him. But to say that he's going to be an all-star, he's going to change a franchise, I just can't see it these days because the NBA has just changed so much. And schematically, the way that we play these days is just not the same. You know, 7'4" and a back to the basket is just not as utilized. Yeah,
but he'll come into the NBA, Marv, with his low post skills coming out of Purdue right now. He'll have the best low post game of probably anybody in the NBA right now. Coming out of Purdue right now, his low post game will be better than probably anybody in the league right now, including Joel Embiid. And so I'm not saying we're going to pound it into him, but certainly getting that ball on the box, on the low block to him, he's a scoring machine down there. So I think he'll come in and he'll, like I said, the pick and roll, the defensive side of it, it'll hurt because we're going to get him in some pick and rolls. And NBA pick and roll is far different than college. But I think his scoring ability, and when he makes that left shoulder turn, that's a bucket. So yeah, I like him. I hope Memphis gets him in the draft because I think that'll be a perfect fit for him.
Yeah, I think Sandra and Norma, you know, they're worried about him, but you look at Elliott, you know, Elliott agrees with you, Lee. You know, he's got to go to the right team. And I agree with you guys both. I think Memphis would be a great destination for him. Hey, you're watching After the Buzzers here on ISF Productions. All right, guys, we've talked about Clark a lot, but we're going to kind of get into a couple things. You know, the draft's tomorrow. There's been some comments about her. I honestly, you know, I'm just going to give my opinion. I think she has galvanized women's basketball. Again, there's other, as we talked about, there's other players that have done it as well, but Clark has gotten most of the publicity. They're kind of dissing her, saying, wait till you get to the WNBA. It's going to be different. Marv, let me get your thoughts on that. Do you think it's too soon to be saying that, or do you think there's going to be an issue with her, or she's got a target on her back now?
I mean, she got a target. There's no way around that. She's definitely got a target on her back. The competitor in anybody who's played on that level or played sports on that level, the competitive side wants to test her, right? Wants to show everybody that maybe she's not as good as she is. But I'm a little more concerned with the messaging. Like, the WNBA has struggled for years from a fiscal standpoint and getting butts in the seat. To me, this would have been the moment for Taurasi and all these vets and goats and women who have really moved the game to uplift her and to talk about, like Don Staley did in her post-game comments after they won the national championship. Because if we're being honest, this is kind of a watershed moment for the WNBA. This is their Michael Jordan moment. Like, seriously, this is their generational talent, even though she's not. But what she's done coming into the WNBA and the following that she's bringing, this is the moment that you can really start to move the needle from a salary perspective to maybe gaining more teams, to more notoriety, to more fans, to more revenue. This is the avenue. And to have, I think Phoenix even is doing a marketing campaign with the GOAT Taurasi, with Caitlin Clark looking up at her and all this kind of stuff. Like, we get it. Let the game speak for itself. She's going to struggle initially. But the great thing about it is she's got a real nice player in Aaliyah Boston there. She's got Keats there as well. She's got a little squad in it that's going to give her a little bit of buffer. So if you can shoot it, you can play on any level, right? Shooting is the great equalizer, and that's one thing that she can do. Now, she's going to have her bumps and bruises. They're going to come at her, but I just don't understand the messaging within the WNBA with this. This should be the time where everybody is on the same page about messaging and uplifting Caitlin to get this brand of the WNBA to levels that they haven't seen
Well,
Mr. Jones.
I like it, Mark. I like it. I want people and being antagonistic against people. I want, when the game come on, we want to see how somebody's going to shut Caitlin Clark down. Think about Lonzo Ball when he came into the league and how everybody, Patrick Beverly got into him that first game, and every time after that, everybody wanted to get into him and show him that he's not good. I love that. I think it's going to actually, that perspective is going to uplift the WNBA game, at least initially. It's going to uplift the WNBA game initially to far heights, because people are going to want to see it. They're going to want to see people get in and get at Caitlin Clark. They're going to want to see it. So I like that perspective. I want that pressure put on Caitlin coming in the door, because everybody's going to watch and see what she's all about. And so it's a good thing for me. I think it's great for the WNBA. I think it's great that Taurasi's calling her out. And I don't want a nice kumbaya moment when she comes in drafting and hugs. No, I want people to say, I'm going to get in that butt and I'm going to shut her down. And she's not the GOAT that people are talking about. So I actually like it. I think it's going to help the ratings for the WNBA. I think you need that level of animosity from the players there. So I love it. And look, Taurasi's going to get her a chance. But let me say this. I think Caitlin Clark's going to hold her own. I think, look, the young lady, the woman, she's very, very skilled. And yeah, there are going to be some growing pains. They have to build a team around her, as you say, Marv. But she's going to hold her own against those guys. She's a skilled player. And so, yeah, I love it. I love the fact that Taurasi's talking and all the other women are jealous because Ice Cube offered her $5 million and all that. That's great. I love it. And so bring it on. Caitlin, get your game ready. And look, I really want the WNBA to do a whole marketing campaign around her entering the league as well. So, yeah, bring it on. I think it's great for the WNBA, and it's going to have some people initially watching because they want to see how this thing plays out.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's all well and good. And the competitive side of you, I guess, wants to see, that talking smack to each other and shutting her out. But listen, if I'm a professional athlete and I've been in the WNBA and I've been toiling with subpar contracts for the length of my career, and I've had to go play in Russia and I've had to subsidize my money playing in Russia and Germany and other places, like, and whatever we've done thus far has not worked as a league, to see pay rise, to see things change in the game, to get women at least on a higher scale of pay than where they've been. I think the outlook needs to be different with this. Sure, everybody's going to go at Caitlin Clark. We all know that, right? But I think the moment is that you need to uplift and bring her into this league and welcome her into this league, because it is a moment that can shift the paradigm of the women's game in ways that we have not seen it before. And the trash talking and all that stuff, as much as you might like it, as much as other people don't like it, the majority of people don't really care. And honestly, to be honest with you, you know how they talk about athletes. You know how they talk about athletes with tattoos, and they talk about all the stuff that they say, right? This is more about moving the needle in terms of fairness and getting women paid. And you have somebody that is in a position to move the needle of this game. And to me, I am uplifting that as much as I can. And then when we get on the court and we get between the lines, that's a different story, right? I'm going at you. I'm trying to take your neck. But otherwise, this is a moment that I'm trying to get paid, so I don't have to go play. I don't have to play basketball year round.
Yeah. To me, the beauty of Michael Jordan, the GOAT, by the way, the GOAT, Michael Jordan, everybody knows that, the GOAT, Michael Jordan, I say it one more time, the GOAT, Michael Jordan. The beautiful thing about Michael Jordan and the NBA was that everybody wanted to beat him. And everybody took their shots at her. And the WNBA needs Caitlin Clark to come in there and be the savior. And everybody hates her, and they need her to rise to that occasion. That's how the salaries are going to go up, because the viewership is going to go up. And so I don't know, Marv. This hugging and kissing and stuff. No, I don't want that. I want her to come in with the bravado that she needs to come in with, and everybody thinking that she's the top dog, the best player in the WNBA walking into the season. And I want people at her, because that's going to have me watching. That's going to have me looking, and that's going to generate more revenue, more eyes on the league. And in turn, when they have more eyes on the league, that's when the revenue is going to go up, in my opinion.
But remember, like we're
that's going to increase it. One person like that is not. There has to be something involved in it. Go ahead, brother.
We're making a fundamental mistake here. Like Caitlin Clark is the end all be all of this draft. We get it, but this is probably one of the deepest drafts the WNBA has ever seen. Right, from top to bottom, from a player perspective and a skill standpoint, this is probably one of the deepest drafts that they've ever seen. And again, this is their moment to elevate the game to another level. I get everything is about Caitlin, but the WNBA is in a moment right now where this is a make or break moment, and they've been their business model. And you know this, Lee. You know, we all business people here. Their business model has been rather bad. Okay, that's putting it lightly. So I get it. I get where you're coming from, but from a business perspective, I just think that the women need to be thinking about this a little bit differently, and just kind of let your game speak for yourself, and just welcome these young, the Cameron Brink young lady. You got Angel Reese, you got the Caruso girl from US. You got so many. We can go down the list, but this is a moment for the WNBA, and I just want to see how they really handle this.
Hey guys,
think about this, and I know we have to move on, Chris, but I want to make one more point.
No, I got after this. I got a question for you on this one, Lee, because we've had some comments. But go ahead.
Let me make this. Remember when Larry Bird came to the league? Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. But remember Larry Bird specifically in the league. The league was draining money like the water going down the drain, right? And then Magic and Larry Bird came in. A segment, of course, Magic. But what really drove it was that Larry Bird came in there, and, excuse my French, he was a great white hope. He was a great white hope. And so his coming into the NBA, along with Irvin Magic Johnson and everything, that's what uplifted the NBA. And it's some talented ladies in this draft, and we all know that. Caitlin Clark is the barometer of everything. And we can say that there's a lot of talent there, and there is. Everything is going to be focused on Caitlin Clark coming out of this WNBA draft. Watch the coverage of it tomorrow.
Hey, real quick. Hey, we got number one, Mav from LA. Welcome back. Glad to see you here this week. Robert and Elliot commented as well. We've got Adam Smith commenting here. Here's one thing, Lee, I want to ask you about before we move on, because Marv kind of touched on it. Do you think it's too soon for them to be talking smack? about her, or I know you love it, but I mean, it is going to elevate because I'm going to watch the draft tomorrow night. You know, I'm interested in it. I mean, I know, is that where you're going? Like, you like the controversy that's happening with it?
The smack starts it. That's what makes us, that gives us pump. That drives us. That's going to carry from the draft into the regular season. I like those women talking that smack. Keep it up, because it's going to increase the anticipation of her first games. And every city she goes into, they're going to be like, the Caitlin show is coming. The Caitlin show is coming. And there's some other great players, Marv, but I can tell you this, and there's nobody waiting for the Angel Reese show to come in the WNBA. Ain't nobody spoke on her. Ain't nobody said any words about her. And she's a good player, but nobody's talking about Angel Reese.
Let's make sure we add a little context to this, okay? Because you used a Bird and Magic reference, and you're using Angel Reese here. So there's some context to this. Angel Reese and Caitlin became so popular because they were competitors and they played head to head, and Angel Reese went at her and Caitlin went at her. That's how that started, right? That's how that whole it wasn't out of thin air where Angel Reese started talking about Caitlin Clark. It was because they competed on the court, right? Diana Taurasi's never played her. None of these WNBA players have never played a minute against Caitlin Clark, and it's coming across as real petty. And it's coming across as being real jealous that this young lady is coming in and she's shifting the needle when it comes to basketball the way that they have not. That's the way it comes across. And then we talk about Magic and Bird. Now let's remember, Bird came into the league. They just played in a national championship game. So there was credibility in their competition, right? They saw each other on the collegiate level and moved to the NBA. You had Bird in his first year where they won 61 games, and I think he might have run Rookie of the Year if I'm not mistaken. But Magic won the title. So there's a competitive history there. It's not just we making up something out of thin air to hate somebody. There's a competitive history that people could build off of and see them compete and go at each other, just like Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. So everything that they're talking about, the ladies who are already in the WNBA, you've got no history with her. You shouldn't have any beef with her. You shouldn't be talking about her the way that you're talking about her. Your game can speak for itself. Fine. When you get on the court with her, destroy her. Do what it is that you do. But until then, uplift her, because there are bigger fish to fry in the WNBA than some competitive back and forth that you find to be entertaining and it's going to put some butts in the seat. There's a lot more stuff that they're fighting for here. The NBA is set. They don't care. They can say whatever they want. The WNBA is fighting for a lot more stuff here, and they need to be very careful.
The pure, for viewership eyes, for people who put their eyes on Caitlin Clark in the WNBA season, this is great. This is great. And guys, we're talking about trying to increase advertisement. We're trying to increase viewership, and we're trying to increase just the overall want for the WNBA game. And there's no way that hugging and kissing is going to get you there when hugging and kissing hadn't got you there for 15 years. It's ridiculous in my opinion. But hey, I know we have to move on. That drive to see somebody shut someone up or somebody prove someone wrong, that's what puts the juices in people. And Marv, the Magic and Bird analysis is what it is. Look, people wanted Larry Bird to succeed coming into the NBA. And his skill set uplifted Boston, which was one of the Blue Bloods. And I think it's a perfect analogy for what's going to happen with Caitlin Clark. And you'll start to hear those comparisons when she gets to Indiana. Trust me on that.
All right, hey, before we move on, I'll just say this. We just spent 15 minutes talking about the WNBA. So the fact is, it's on people's mind, and that's a big thing from about 2 years ago. So Absolutely. I'll give you that. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. Keep them coming. We're keeping up with them. All right, guys. So this is an interesting topic. NAIA, people who don't know, that is a smaller school, like an NCAA, but it's a smaller school sanctioned conference. A lot of great schools playing it all over the country. They just banned transgender athletes from playing in the men's teams. You know, a lot of controversy going on in the NCAA, especially with kind of started with the swimming. There's stuff going on through high schools. But Marv, I'm going to start with you, being a college athlete, D1. Where do you see this NAIA thing? What do you think about it? Is that something the NCAA needs to look at, or what are your thoughts on that? Because it is very controversial right now.
It is, and this is a sensitive subject, it's a touchy subject. So I'm of the viewpoint of Don Staley. Like, if they want to play, let them play, right? I don't govern the way that people live their lives, or what people choose to be the right way to live their lives. That's up to each individual. What I do know is that sports are for everyone, right? Transgender athletes, they deserve access to life-saving sports, because sports have saved the lives of a lot of people that I've known. No matter black, white, women, men, whatever the case may be, I've come across where sports has been the only defining moment and factor in their lives that helped them get through some things, right? It should be a safe space. It should be a space to build community, engage in competition for all levels and ages, right? So I'm not quite sure where the NIL is kind of going with this. I mean, there's a wealth of evidence, and there's we can kind of go through this if you want. I'm not a I'm not a scholar, and it's not something that I pretend to be, but there's a wealth of evidence that suggests that testosterone doesn't really have a defining factor in athletic ability or how good you are at something. So it's and if we can go back to the Olympian, I can't remember her name, right? And we can get into kind of some biological stuff here with XY chromosomes and XX. We don't want to go too down the well with that, but she was born and she was XXY, right? And the International Olympic Committee banned her. I think this was 2019 because of her high testosterone levels, but she was a biological woman. Like, where are we going with the ruling? I'm not saying that there's no biological difference or in a genuine context, no biological difference between men and women, because there are. But I just don't know where we're kind of going with this. If somebody wants to play sports, let them play. I'm not a gatekeeper. I don't pretend to be a gatekeeper. And I think that men should stop gatekeeping women's bodies. And I think they should stop making decisions for women in all kinds of aspects, not just when it comes to sports. So that's where I kind of stand on it. No, that might be a little bit controversial, but if they want to play, let them play. I'm all for it.
Mr. Jones.
Yeah. So, there's a lot. Yeah. Thank you, Serenade. That Caster, I forget it. Saminia. That's her name.
I mean, that's it. That's her name. Yeah.
Yeah. They ruled her eligible, then they ruled her ineligible, looking at the testosterone levels and things of that nature. A lot of and doing some of the research on this, they're really saying that the science for testosterone is 15, 20 years off, right? On really knowing what the studies are going to tell you about the effect. Male bodies, female bodies, and things of that nature. The one thing I'll say is this: sport is the equalizer. In when you play sports, everything is on an equal playing field. It's an equal playing field, right? Sports. That's what we talk about: talent, sports, and all that. If a father or a mother thought that their child was playing sports and it was at a disadvantage, do we eliminate their feelings as for allowing someone else to play? I think the research is so inconclusive right now. It's so inconclusive right now that it makes it difficult. It makes it very difficult to really form an opinion on this. I do research and I'm driven by research. But what I will say is, I would hate to exclude a transgender young lady from playing, if they had a love for sport, from playing, if the research doesn't state that is a significant advantage to that transgender young lady. I would hate to do that. And so in the Olympics, they let Castor play, and then they banned her. I think World Athletics, which is another sanctioning body, their rules say after a transgender athlete has had hormones for 12 months, then they can play. So this research is all over the place. But I would hate to have a young lady not be able to play, or a transgender young lady not be able to play. But you have to look at the physiological differences between a male and a female. When a male gets 13 or 14 years of age, 15 years of age, their bodies is physically different than a female. Now that is true. That is true. Where that goes in sport, though, I can't make that determination. But that is a true thing. And so the research is far beyond. And then the last thing I'll say, because a lot of people talk about having their own league and things of that nature, there's just not enough transgender athletes to have that league. And that's 5 or 6 years away. So it's all over the place. But for me, if you want my opinion with this, I just think that until you have a transgender athlete that's completely dominating women's sports to a level that the women cannot compete, then I think they should be able to play, in my opinion.
All right, guys, let me. Oh, go ahead, Marv.
I don't understand. Maybe you two can help me with this. I don't understand why this even has become an issue. Like, Ali, I think you just kind of said it. There's not enough transgender athletes that we're even talking about where this has even become. I think it's Leah Thomas, the swimmer. I think I want to say that I can recall. Yep. But transgender and non-binary people are starting to challenge the traditional views of the way we see men and women, right? And that's the challenge here. And you have people that pass laws, that are making laws that govern these bodies, and is this really about governing bodies, or is this really more of a platform in terms of governing business and money, because money is power, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to go down the political rabbit hole, but there's a whole construct to that, right? So it has me to start thinking about it in that sense, because it really hasn't been an issue. Now all of a sudden we're starting to make it an issue for some reason, and I just can't figure it out. And all I can think about is I don't know why men are trying to govern women's bodies as a whole in the first place. But that's another conversation for another day.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, Mark, we haven't seen a transgender athlete just dominate sport. And that's the one point that when I talk about it, and again, it's a lot going on there, right? But we haven't seen someone that's so great at basketball that they're just killing the women on the court, or so great in track and field or swimming or whatever that this is a problem. And so until that happens, and then the science catch up, it's just hard to say that we should exclude a transgender lady from playing sport.
And one more point, and I just got to say this because it just started making me think about sports as a whole, and I've been part of the sports community for a long time. Think about the sports that we've created in this country to determine power and success. Like, we created American football. We like the sports that we deem to be the most powerful and money driven, all ours around men, right? What if what if it was the balance beam? Would we say would we be having the same kind of conversation? Like everything has turned into about money and power, and everything it's behind men driven sports. But why? Like, why has that? Is it the shortcoming of us as men to create our dominance and to beat our chests and to say that we're more dominant? Because that's what it feels like sometimes. The more that I kind of read into this and the more that I looked at this, the more I try to educate myself on this. Like, men have to start taking some responsibility in the things that we've created and things that we've done. And this just feels like another, moment where we're stepping into something that we have no business stepping into, and making rules where there was even no problem to start with. And again, just trying to regulate women's bodies. And it just feels kind of sickening to me, if I'm being quite honest. I don't get it.
Yeah. I think from a psychological perspective, parents sometimes think, or if they found out this was a transgender athlete, they just automatically go to 10 and to say that uh, uh, transgender lady is gonna be better simply because they were once a man, or and that's not the case, right? There are WNBA basketball players right now that if they played in a game with some of the people that are in the NBA, they would get the best of them. There are some that could play in the NBA, I feel. So you have to be careful when you start to talk about that. But I will say this: the science, and I just think that the science, and I think there has to be some parameters put around it because it's polarizing on both sides. And we see some comments, and there's men hit harder than women, and yeah, if it's a man that has not started to transition, I think that would be the case. But we have to be very careful, I think, when we start to talk about and saying those things, because again, I've seen some women, and Marv, you've been in the gym with women that'll knock you on your ass in a minute, right? And that could play through some fouls. And so we have to be careful when we say those things, and we have to really, hopefully they ramp up the science before there's a complete ban on anything, because I think we jump to the conclusion sometimes.
Well, guys, I'm gonna get controversial here because I'm reading these comments, and some of them are right, the safety. But I'm gonna tell you, Lee, you mentioned women. It's not women wanting to play; it's women identifying as men or men identifying as women. And we bring up Leah Thomas, and I'll give you an example. He was like the 200 and some ranked swimmer in Division I. Decides he's a woman, goes to the women, ties Riley Gaines from Kentucky, who is a star swimmer. It was a tie. The NCAA gave Leah Thomas the national championship. Leah Thomas changes in the women's locker room. That's where I'm getting at. My daughter is no way, and excuse my language, in hell being in a locker room with someone who's a man. I don't care if he thinks he's a woman. That's not what's going to happen with my daughter. That's the only thing. I got controversial. Sorry, guys. That's where I
think that's fair.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work for me on that end. Yes, women, Lee, you're right. There's some WNBA girls that could probably school some of these NBA guys. But it's when you're in the locker room and you're doing things like that, I don't want my daughter seeing that. And that's just my opinion. And I didn't mean to get controversial, but I was very curious on what you guys thought of this topic, because it is very interesting. It's going to go on forever. I mean,
I think we also need to be very, very cautious about language we use also, though, when we talk about this, and Chris, I think is very fair, the point that you brought up, but to say that she decided to become a woman, like, we don't know the psychological, what she went through, how long this had been going on. Like those are things that we don't know, right? I don't think anybody just wakes up and decides to do that. Now your point is valid in how you feel in terms of what it represents. But there's a whole mental history here. There's a lot of factors that we have to also be able to recognize when it comes to stuff like this. And again, in the NAIA rules, they said that they can't participate in, but if they started taking hormones, then they can participate in, practice and things of that nature. But isn't sex hormones a steroid? I mean, I know I'm not a doctor, I'm not anything. And aren't steroids typically banned in most other professional sports or sports that we have that we garner to be, what we love? I mean, isn't it a steroid? So what's the message here? Like, I don't understand what the message is. And again, it feels very political to me, but I'm gonna leave it at that.
Chris, I want to say this to you. I've known you a long time. And for anybody that's watching, this is one of the most fair people that I know. So your views are not anything that to be frowned upon. There's a segment of the population that feels that way. There's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. The science The science is the key here that helps us determine these things, and we can make some educated decisions on this. But yeah, to Mars' point about the hormones, and that's what the World Athletics has done. 12 months of hormones, and so we'll see this come to form more often. But fair points on all points around, and it's individualized points.
I know we got to move on, but Ray just made a point that no WNBA player can play with an NBA player. That's not really the point, Ray. The point is that we're talking about people playing sports on all levels. This isn't just about professional sports. This is about kids sports. This is about college athletes. This is about lower level college athletes. This isn't just about professional sports. So we have, again, like, these are the conversations, though, that we need to have, because nobody has real conversations about it. Everybody kind of says what they feel. They get in their bubble and they just kind of stay in the corner. Like, yeah, I know who Chris is. I know what he's about. And he's definitely one of the best people that I know. And it's good to have these conversations so I can learn something. So maybe you can gather something from what I say. And then we start to have real conversations that maybe, kind of shift the paradigm and move the needle a little bit.
Excellent point, Mom. I think we can move on.
Absolutely. No, and a great conversation. And Mars, right? We get our topics out, everybody. We don't discuss them at all. So we have no clue what the three of us are going to say. We put them out during the week, and we have a pack. We don't talk about them until we get live here on the show. But thank you, everybody, again. Very controversial topic. Love the conversation. Love the comments as well here on After the Buzzers on ISF Productions. And we'll revisit it because, again, it'll be here. But hey, yeah, and these two guys are great. I don't, we may think different, but we all get along. We love each other, and that's why we're here every Sunday at 7 and 6 Central. All right, guys. Lee, you're a Memphis guy. Calipari came through that area, went to Kentucky. Now he's headed to Arkansas. Kind of took some of us by surprise, but I'll start with you, Lee. Well, I mean, what do you think? I know you've been following him for a long time, and what do you think the reason was? Do you think it's a good move?
Yeah, I think Kentucky is, when you talk about a fan base, sometimes that's delusional. Like you're supposed to win the championship every year at Kentucky. Most coaches have won a championship, but Calipari's won a championship too. And so, but the one thing about Kentucky basketball, tell me how many coaches that have coached Kentucky have been repeat winners of championships. And that is where the delusion comes in, right? The repeat champion. So I feel that Calipari went there and again, 15 years is a long time to be any place. And I think, all the chatter that was around John Calipari as far as Kentucky losing, and rightfully so, let's be honest. You're 1-5 in the last, six tournament games. So the criticism was there. But I think that fan base is delusional sometimes for the University of Kentucky. Now, let's fast forward it to the move to Arkansas. Excellent move for Arkansas. Excellent move. Recruiting base. He's going to bring in talent. I think from what he hasn't dipped into the transfer portal, I think it's going to help the transfer portal and players going to Arkansas immensely. Arkansas has already committed up to $5 million this year. That booster's not Arkansas, putting into their NIL. So I think, and then you have to look at Northeast Arkansas, Tyson, Walmart, JB Hunt, all of that money that's up there in the northwest corner of Arkansas. This is a perfect landing spot for John Calipari. And I tell you what, Arkansas is starving. They've been to the Elite Eight a couple of times in the most recent years, but getting to a Final Four like the old Nolan Richardson days. I can say this about the University of Arkansas and their basketball. If you're a winner, it's king. It's king. And so I think Calipari is going to be great for Arkansas. I'm looking forward to it. And I say, sometimes you get what you wish for. You get what you wish for, Kentucky. As you saw, a lot of people were turning that job down, saying, I'm going to stay here. And they went and got the Mark Pope guy from BYU. He might be the greatest coach since sliced bread, but we'll certainly see, Marv. What you think?
I think you hit it all on the head, Lee. I think you hit all the points, and, being an Arkansas guy yourself, I think, Arkansas is a basketball school. They got all the resources in the world to give Calipari what he wants. I think he made a smart move. He was tired of Kentucky. Kentucky was tired of him. It's where they need to go. I do think Kentucky made a good hire, though. I know Mark Pope played against them in college. I think he's the right guy to kind of to take this role right now. I think he'll get the Reed Shepherd kid to come back just because of his relationship with his dad. We all played against each other back in the day. But yeah, I think you hit it on the head, Lee. Arkansas is a basketball school. They got all the money in the world throwing. You made Walmart, JB Hunt. You forgot Jerry Jones, I think, your boy.
Jerry Jones, yeah.
So, yeah, you forgot your boy. So I think it's a great move for Arkansas. I think that it brings them back to relevancy. And I think they'll be good fast because you can say what you want about Calipari. He's an excellent recruiter. And he's going to have them ready. So I think it's good. I think it's a good move.
Absolutely.
How did we get a Cowboys reference in on the show somehow?
I mean, we always gonna get a Cowboy reference because I just need to let you know Jerry Jones is around because I'm waiting for football season. You know, I'm biting, so I'm waiting for football season so I can get up in them.
Well,
Lee, what do you think about staying in the same conference though? Too, I think that's very interesting.
That was intentional for sure.
Yeah, I think it gives him an opportunity to snub his nose at Kentucky. That's what I think it does. And then, as we talked about earlier, competition and bad blood is good for the sport. It's good for the sport. And so I love the fact that he went to Arkansas. And I'm a big John Calipari fan. I've always been. Excellent recruiter. I mean, I do, X's and O's, a little bit lack to be desired, but a great recruiter. And Arkansas will win under John Calipari. There's no doubt about that.
You going to head across the bridge for some games?
Absolutely. That
arena is crazy. But Walton is crazy. I'm going to tell you that.
Yeah.
All right, guys. As we're winding down here, we got a couple more things to talk about. We brought this up on a lot of shows. NIL. Lee, I think you mentioned it earlier today as well in our show, but it seems like these guys are chasing the NIL. There's so much difference. I was reading an article today when we were talking about the women's and the men. It's almost like the men are just bouncing around all over the place trying to find their money. Marv, I'll start with you actually instead of Lee this time. Do you think it's ruining it? Do you think it's hurting the coaches, the teams? I mean, I'm a guy, I root for the team on the shirt, but it is hard to kind of every year it's like there's new people. What are your thoughts on it?
You know what? I don't think it's ruining college athletics because the college athletic model that we know no longer exists. This is the new normal, right? So no. I mean the college that I was part of and what I knew, yeah, I could say it probably is, but this is the new normal. I mean, this is no longer amateur sports anymore. This is professional sports. The NCAA is a multi-billion-dollar business. We all know that. And any business that's operating on a 50 to 75% profit margin, I think you would call a successful business. I think any of us would want to be a part of, and that's what they are. So I don't think it's ruining. I think it's good for the kids. But there's one part before I let Lee go because we're running short on time. There's one part that we don't talk about enough. It's we always talk about the high earners and the NIL and the valuations and the kid that can the few that can go and really demand money. There's a lot that can't. And a lot of these deals are very one-sided and shady, and we don't have any NIL, transparency. So we don't know really what's going on behind the scenes. And I know we're going to start finding through the years that a lot of kids are probably getting taken advantage of in a lot of ways that we don't know about yet. I'm sure it's going to come. But yeah, I mean, this is where we are now. So, if you can go get that bag and you can leave Alabama to go to Ohio State like somebody that we know I won't name and get $3.2 million, good for you. I would do it too.
Hey, Recycle Me gave us a little Jerry Maguire there. Show me the money. But Lee, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I don't think it's ruining college sports. I mean, Marv said it. College sport was already ruined. I mean, a coach can. I always give the example of Bobby Petrino. Bobby Petrino signed with UNLV. He signed a contract with UNLV to be their offensive coordinator. 2 weeks later, Texas A&M offered him more money, and he resigned from that job and went to Texas A&M. It's about money. And you hear all of these coaches talking about they have to do something. We didn't ever have to do anything when the coaches left the kid. When the kid wanted to come play for them, we never had to do anything. You know, it was always the kids are going to be all right. These kids and these parents said, you stood right in their home and said, I love little Johnny. I'm going to make him an NFL player. And then you left next week. So yeah, I don't think it's ruined. I think, look, bottom line is DeMarcus Cousins told a story real quick. I know we have to go, but DeMarcus Cousins told a story. They was in New Mexico City, and they were playing against somebody. I don't forget who they were playing against. And there was a vendor outside, and he was selling DeMarcus Cousins jerseys, right? And DeMarcus Cousins was inside playing, and he didn't get a cent off the jersey. The guy outside made $60,000. How in what world is that right? And so this is what I'm talking about when you have all of these people now hollering that college sports is broken. Well, it never was fixed. It was always money going on. Marv, tell us how much money you got, by the way, before you go. How much did Alabama give you when you – I know you were the player of the year in South Carolina. Yeah, he'll tell us later, y'all. Don't worry about it. He'll tell us later how much you got. But anyway, that's what I'm talking about. And so it never was fixed. It was just, we're going to use the athletes to get where we want to go. And now the story is kind of flipped a little bit, and the athletes are using the coaches and their situation to get bad. And let me say this, the last thing I'll say. Parents spend a lot of time, money on their kids, getting them to the level where they can get a Division I scholarship. And if that kid and that parent can have financial gain because the university and all these other people are going to benefit, I say hands up to the parents and the kids.
Let me say one thing, because there was a comment here about developing players, right? So the development stage of players is gone. And I think that's an important part that we're losing in college athletics, because the development is important. But maybe we can talk about this next week. Maybe the fix is that colleges and universities and players start to revenue share. Do you think that could ever be something that, like, maybe they're sharing NIL deals with universities? In turn, there's media money that gets shared, but just revenue sharing amongst players and universities, that then develops continuity that helps players stay at a university because they are now invested in that school. The school is now back invested in them. Maybe that's the way to kind of go about this. But, I just thought about that, because we are missing out on the development part, because kids are leaving when it gets tough. College sports taught you to work through things, to be tough, to be mentally tough. And when things get tough, you watch kids leave because they can get an evaluation higher somewhere else. I do think that hurts development, but that's the part that we got to try to figure out, because it's hurting the game.
They have to unionize first. If they unionize college athletics, and you'll see football do that before anything. But that's an excellent point, Marv. You'll see that, and then that's going to be the fix when you see football break away. They're going to unionize and they're going to revenue share. So absolutely.
Yeah, and guys, that's something we talked about a few weeks ago, and we're right. Marv, great point, and Lee, you're right. That's going to happen in football. Absolutely. Hey, we had another topic. We're going to put that off till next week. We've had a lot of great discussion here today. That's after the buzzers. We kind of get into everything, and not just the games, but we look at the other side of sports and what we can do. I've got my money man here, Marv, as we've changed his name today. Marv, anything you want to leave our viewers on?
Stop talking trash to Caitlin Clark and let that girl do what she does and go get your paper.
and I call him the Professor Lee Jones. Anything else, Lee, you want to leave the viewers with?
I just want to say it was excellent commentary today, everyone. I really appreciate it. We had some great topics. Everybody hit it hard. This is how we do it every week. We want to get the views, and we want this stuff out there. Please tell your friends about us. This is what we do. You don't have to like our opinions, but hopefully you have an opinion. That's what we want to say, because we certainly do. After the buzzers, guys. Tell your friends.
Absolutely. No, Lee, great point, and he's right. Spread the word. Tell everybody about it. Love the comments tonight, guys. Great show as always. You bring it every week. After the buzzers here on ISF Productions. Thank our producer Catches, who always puts us on the air every Sunday. And check out Reels. I know Lee puts a lot of stuff out during the week as well. So make sure you're checking that out. And hey, till next Sunday, we've got NBA playoffs getting ready to come up, guys. So we got a lot to talk about there as well. But till next Sunday.
Chris, maybe Marv will tell us next week how much he got. Let's try to get him to tell us how much he got. Dude. We want to see.
Yeah, he's living in that big house, Lee.
Well, I don't know what happened to it.
All right, everybody. Well, till next week, we'll see you then. I'm Chris. That's Marv. That's Lee. After the buzzers every Sunday, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central.